away. The president not only incited an insurrection against our government, but has in word and deed led a rebellion. We cannot simply move past this or turn the page. For us to be able to survive as a functioning democracy, there has to be accountability. We must impeach and remove this president from the office immediately so that he cannot be a threat to our democracy. I stand ready to fulfill my oath of office. And I challenge my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to do the same. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman from Massachusetts. Insert into the record a New York Times article published January 9th entitled, "Our President Wants Us Here, the Mob That Stormed the Capitol." It's another example of why our country cannot risk even one more day of Donald Trump. Without objection. I now yield 1 minute to the gentleman from California, Mr. Correa. Gentleman from California is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank the gentleman for yielding. And Mr. Speaker, last week, Congress was under siege by a mob, motivated and directed by the President of the United States. Our Vice President was the target of that mob. Members of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, were targets of this mob. And I witnessed, for this first time in my life, Americans fighting Americans, all at the behest of our own President of the United States. And as Americans, we can do better. And I will vote for impeachment today for our nation, for our children, and for our grandchildren. And I'll be voting for impeachment so that America will once again be the shining city upon the hill, whose beacon light guides freedom-loving people everywhere. I urge my colleagues.
The indecency of the institution that we're all privileged to be part of, and I'm very proud to have been part of it. Very proud of all the members and the manner in which they participated. I want to again thank the staff and thank those who kept us safe in the process, particularly the Capitol Police. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I oppose this rule and I oppose the majority's actions today. After the traumatic events of last week, the majority should be taking steps to unite us. Instead, they are only dividing us further. They're rushing to judgment, in my opinion, and bringing up impeachment after failing to follow any meaningful process whatsoever.
His friendship and for the way he conducts himself in his chamber. I know he has great respect for this institution. Mr. Speaker, it is impossible for me to fully capture the reverence that I have for the United States Capitol. You know, I worked on these grounds starting back when I was a college intern working for Senator George McGovern back in 1977. No relation. Great last name. But since that time, I have done everything from working as a staffer for Congressman Joe Moakley of Massachusetts to being elected to the United States House of Representatives myself. But that internship will always be a high point of my life. Coming here for the first time, walking these hallowed halls, and seeing the glory of American democracy up close. The idea that someone would incite an out-of-control mob of homegrown fascists and domestic terrorists to desecrate the People's House fills me with a deep sadness for our country. The contempt that these people had for our democracy and our freedom fills me with horror. And what Donald Trump did, encouraging them, fills me with rage. Rage, not just on behalf of all of those serving here, but all of those who work in these halls. And I'm talking about the reporters, the cafeteria workers, the custodians, the clerks, the parliamentarians. I go on and on and on. And the staff, the Democratic staff, the Republican staff, the nonpartisan support staff, who were terrorized, some hiding under their desks and barricading in their offices. I was in the Speaker's chair the day this unfolded. And many of the people who are sitting up there now were present at that time. What a horrifying thing for anybody to have to experience. Now, some of my Republican friends have been trying to lecture us about unity here today. Unity, after they voted to overturn a free and fair election in the United States of America, but also preaching unity and not acknowledging that for 4 years, many of them gave oxygen to Donald Trump's conspiracy theories, to the big lies. They turned the other way in the face of racism and bigotry and how he embraced some of the most intolerant voices in this country. They just let it go. You know, I will remind everybody here that words have consequences. And ignoring words that are wrong also have consequences. You know, what happened would never have happened if everybody stood up in unity and called out the president when he was not telling the American people the truth, when he was pushing a big lie. We will never have unity without truth and also without accountability. This week in Congress, we saw the best of us and the worst of us. Some of my colleagues have shown that they will defend this president no matter what he does. There's nothing that he could do that would dissuade them from all out support. But some are standing up and doing the right thing under tremendous pressure. And I am proud of that. And I honor them for their courage. This impeachment resolution outlines the truth of what Trump did. It is time that this Congress now holds him accountable for his words and for their devastating impact. Last week, we took an oath to protect this nation. As history calls on us today, I pray that we all have the moral clarity to uphold it here today. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time, and I move the previous question on the resolution.
The question is on order, and the previous question on the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, on that, I would request the yeas and nays.
Pursuant to Section 3S of House Resolution 8, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device.
All right, so we've been listening to the House floor as the impeachment process unfolds, hearing from both Republicans and Democrats. And, you know, essentially the argument that we have been hearing from Democrats for a while now as to why to move forward has to do with not only what the president said to that crowd right before the rally on Wednesday, Vlad, where he said they had to display strength before they went down there, that they have to particularly give strength to those Republicans who were going along with the results of this free and fair and secure election that happened in November, but also the words that he used leading up to that, the doubting of the election results, so insisting over and over again that the election was stolen from him when in fact it wasn't, and all of that leading up to the moments that we saw on Capitol Hill. The Republicans, I think, perhaps their strongest counter argument was that this process was being rushed. It's true there are not many days left in the president's term, and so there was a plea to let calmer heads prevail. It's, you know, I should point out this is also the same argument that was used the last time the president was impeached, that the whole process was being rushed. And, you know, you and I watched it play out. It was hours and hours of testimony, an extensive investigation. So you can take away what you would like from that.
Well, you know, to the point.
So let us bring in, though.
Anne-Marie,
sorry,
before I
Vlad, go
bring in
ahead.
Caitlin, let me just to the point that you made. It's instructive, I think, to listen to some of the words that you heard from lawmakers, but also some of those who haven't spoken yet. I for one, saw a post on Instagram from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and when you listen to her and the fact that this member of Congress, forget her party and forget, you know, the fact that this member of Congress elected by the people feared for her life. And I keep thinking about the images that are coming to us, the videos that we're seeing now, that are just being released now, right? A week later, where you see some of these individuals saying, where's the floor plan for the Capitol? And she says that she feared that, you know, that if they caught her, if they ran into her, that her life would be in mortal danger. And that's what we're talking about here. The last impeachment, there can be witnesses and arguments and legal judgments passed on a transcript because we never actually heard the phone call, right? You can look at a transcript and lawyers can go over it and say, well, this is what it means or this is what it doesn't mean. But you don't need to do that here. The images are there. A Confederate flag being flown inside the Capitol, a noose outside of the doors of the United States Capitol, people running through the building with zip ties in their hand, wearing flak jackets. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, indeed. We all watched the evidence unfold before our eyes in shock, and like you point out, we're seeing more and more of what happened, and it is deeply disturbing every time there's another video that is released or revealed. So let us now bring political reporter Caitlin Huey Burns in to talk a little bit more about the process, what we've been witnessing. So Caitlin, just sort of take us through what we watched on the House floor. Your take on the arguments on both sides, and kind of give us a sense of where we're at now in the process.
Yeah, good morning. Well, the argument coming from Democrats has been that, if these aren't impeachable offenses, the president of the United States inciting violence on the Capitol, then what is? And they talk about this sense of urgency. But it's remarkable, really, to hear from Republicans like Tom Cole, of course, who's the ranking member of the Rules Committee. His argument was more focused on process than the president's actions, which I think reveal a lot and kind of show that there are a lot of Republicans who don't find the president's behavior defensible. So by arguing on the process, that this is a rushed impeachment, that there isn't, quote, due process, that they don't have the time to kind of go through and have open hearings and go through the committee work. I mean, they're focused on the process. Now, of course, you did have some members on the floor defending the president, like Jim Jordan and another lawmaker from Pennsylvania who said that the president has acknowledged that he wants a peaceful transfer of power. Now, of course, we know that the president only said that in a taped telepromptered address and has since shown no remorse. And I really want to pick up on something that you guys were just talking about leading into me, which is kind of how these members are describing their own feelings about what happened last week, just a week ago today. And having covered Capitol Hill on big issues like immigration and gun control and other big issues, typically the biggest impediment to action on Capitol Hill is time. The more time passes, the more members of Congress become desensitized to whatever